Welcome to Ball Talk Deep, where we talk deep about ball. It's Andrade and Irwin back at it again. Drop a like, drop a sub, drop a comment before we get into it. We post 5+ videos a week. And this time around, you already know what time it is. It's post-game coverage. And we're going to react to the Atlanta Hawks versus New York Knicks Game 2 that just finished.
And man, oh man, you know playoff basketball is back and live when the Garden is lit. And man, even with everything that's going on in the pandemic, they're not at 100% capacity.
It looked like 100% capacity.
Did,
you brought it up like 4 times during the game.
Yeah, man. It's exciting to see. And guys, before we get to it, guys, BTD stats.
Oh yeah, before we get into our shit talking, let's look at the stats for the game.
Yes, sir.
All right. The team stats. We got Atlanta Hawks and New York Knicks. Field goal percentage, Atlanta shot 36.9%. New York 38.3%. And from the 3-point, Atlanta shot 27.3%. And New York shot 36.4%. Free throws, Atlanta is at 81.8%, New York at 73.9%. Atlanta caught 41 rebounds, Knicks caught 54 rebounds. Atlanta has 17 assists, NY 15 assists. And we'll just go all the way down. Actually, turnovers, 14 for Atlanta, 11 for New York. And lastly, the largest lead in the game, Atlanta had 15 and the Knicks had 10. And if you caught the game early,
yeah, man. Atlanta was clearly in control. Not clearly, but they were up to a good start and in control. They were
up until like mid-third quarter, somewhere around the third quarter.
New York just turned it on, and man, that's the beauty of home cooking. And I think New York arguably has the best home cooking in these playoffs right now.
Yeah, and I was a little worried about New York. I mean, let's see who in New York blew it up.
Yeah, well, what blew it up was Derrick Rose, man. He turned back the clock and he had 26 points. Andrade could look that up to back it up, but it is 26 points. That Derrick Rose had
with a plus 12 and 4 assists and 4 rebounds.
Exactly. Julius Randle, he didn't have a good game as he's had before.
But he still had a solid game.
But yeah, solid game, and more importantly, Knicks fans, they got the W. That's the most important stat at the end of the day.
That's true. That's true. And Randle helped out with 12 rebounds and 4 assists. So even though he had 4 turnovers and he was pretty off from field goal, let's be honest.
He did.
He knew what he needed to do to at least keep his team in the mix. And I mean, you would think that a guy shooting 5 for 16 would be at minus, but he actually ended up with plus 3 on the floor, which goes to show like, hey, this might not be my night, but it's still gonna be my team's night, and it shows a lot.
Hey, but speaking of whose night it wasn't, man, it wasn't the Hawks, man. They like, talk about like opposites, man. Like the Knicks, they got super hot, and the Hawks got super cold.
Yes,
man, it's like it's like night and day, man. What happened?
It was crazy in the second quarter. Atlanta went. I don't know what was the end result, but I want to say it was like 13-0 or 15-0 at one point, and it was just like I thought. Man, I don't know if the Knicks are going to have it in them because they were defeated. They looked physically, emotionally drained during that second quarter up until like halftime. There must have been some speech, some talk, that got their head right again in the game.
That's where it reminded me, and I think you brought this up in the point where we were watching another playoff game, the Bucks and the Heat. It's like, yo, chill. Wait till you get to the middle of the third quarter and see what happens. The game is not over yet.
Oh, yeah, that's true, because you're like, oh, it's over. And for that game, it was over.
It was over. That was like 30 points. I'm like, this was 15 points.
But yeah, I always tell, like, people, I think some people put too much weight in the first half, and I'm always like, yo, wait until what happens in the third quarter. Third quarter, most of the times, that's when the game gets decided. In terms of like, okay, is it gonna go down to the last couple of minutes, or is this just gonna be a runaway game? And clearly, New York felt a different type of way about it tonight.
And the majority of times, that home team, especially if they're down in the first half or some point in the game, they're gonna have some sort of run to be able to answer.
And they did.
And Atlanta just had no answer, which kind of speaks
answer.
It speaks a little bit to their inexperience here in the playoff times.
I did want to touch on that.
But there's some good for the Hawks as well. But before we get to it, what do you think about the series? It's tied 1-1. How do you feel for the Knicks, and how do you feel for the Hawks?
All right, seeing how this game played out and just watching how Atlanta was playing, in the sense that, okay, you guys had this great lead, you guys had this great momentum. New York was chipping at it and eventually just completely took that momentum. The fact that, one, they were able to completely take away that momentum, and two, once New York took that momentum, Atlanta just seem to like not be able to even get a grasp on it to get it back. One, touches on the inexperience, and two, tells me a lot about like this team's mentality and focus and determination. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think this game, we'll see how the series plays out. I think we'll be able to look back on this game and be like, this is the game where New York took the overall momentum from the Hawks, from what they were building up in game one and even before that. And don't be surprised if New York just completely switched it right now and they end up winning the series, and it will be all rooted down to how game two played out.
I think it's still too early to say that. I'm going to disagree with that because the Hawks, they did what they were supposed to do. Their mission in these first two games is steal one in New York. Steal home court advantage. And that's what the Hawks did.
Yeah.
And they got the next two games at home. Role players are usually...
I think New York is going to take one at home.
We'll see,
I think New York just switched it. Might win it in 5 or 6.
No, I definitely disagree.
You think 7 games?
I still think it's going to be...
I think it might be end up being 6.
It's going to be 7 games. I give the advantage to who has the home court advantage. Who it is? The Knicks. 7 games. Because both of these teams are inexperienced. But I think the Hawks, they get some home cooking. For game 3, they're going to win that game.
Okay, I don't know.
They look like a team, like, obviously, they got cold, but they look like a team like, hey, let's just... we want to get back to Atlanta. We want to get back to home and just game 3.
I feel you. For me, one of the key factors for Atlanta is going to be Bogdanovic. And if Bogdanovic isn't sinking his shots and just living up to the high potential that we know he can live up to, I don't think Atlanta will be able to win this series. Because I'm sorry, guys. It's just you cannot rely on someone like Trae Young to carry you to the promised land. The guy is an offensive powerhouse, but when his shots aren't sinking, he kind of just disappears from the game. He really does. He's too small to defend. He doesn't play great off the ball. Yeah, he plays good, but he doesn't play great off the ball. And look, for a guy that scores 30 points and 7 assists, he only still ended up having a +5 on the floor with 5 turnovers. I don't think he's there yet to be able to lead a team, to carry a team into the promised land.
Man, what are you talking about, man? In game 1, you suddenly forgot all about Ice Trae.
He did that. Okay.
Yo, come on, man.
That proved to me that, like, okay, he can hit clutch shots.
Yes.
But being a clutch player...
Isn't that something very important when it comes to being the number 1 and leading your team to that?
Being a clutch player and being able to lift a team, carry a team to the promised land are two different things. The easiest example is Milwaukee. When you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, who's the clutch player on that team?
I would say either Middleton, actually Drew Holiday.
No, it's Chris Middleton. And who's the carrier? Who's the leader in that team?
Giannis.
Exactly. And it's the same with Trae. Trae can be the clutch player, and he can put numbers on the board. But I don't think... Maybe he'll change my mind over the next few years, but he's still not there yet, in my opinion, of being able to carry a team to the promised land. And in terms of you can't blame him. There's very rare where a superstar that's shorter. What is he, like 6'1", 6'2"? That's shorter than 6'4" to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Can do that.
Oh, but that's what I said. It's very rare. The only two people that are under 6'3", 6'4" are Dame and Chris Paul. And bro, if you're talking
throwback, yeah.
Oh, okay. You're talking about Detroit as Thomas.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay. No, yeah,
even though Boston,
he's gonna go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, pound for pound. I know people will bring up Iverson and stuff, but bro, Isaiah won 2 championships.
The difference is between that point that you were saying with Giannis, he has a good number 2 and a good number 3 player behind him. He has Chris Middleton as a number 2, and he has Drew Holiday now as a number 3 player. They're interchangeable when it comes to...
even Gallinari, like, if he could just bring some crazy shit off the bench.
It's good that you brought that up. Look, if one of the Knicks, the strengths for the Knicks is they have a lot of good people and they're coming off the bench. The bench scoring is one of the strengths when it comes to the Knicks. The Hawks, they're going to be able to make... this into a series. Well, not to a series, but to be able to win this, they're gonna have to like match or get very close.
Yeah, and their bench players weren't scoring because Gallinari and Lou Will, we know they can perform. They couldn't tonight.
Gallinari, Lou, and your boy Bogdanovic. It's gonna come to that, but I still stand by my decision, man. It's gonna be 7 games. Knicks, obviously that could change.
Okay.
These two teams are very evenly matched, guys.
I think what helps the Knicks a lot too is the experience that Thibodeau, Rose, and Gibson have.
Yeah,
because let's not forget they were consistently in the playoffs and would make deep runs in the playoffs. Not too deep, but deep runs in the playoffs consistently during those Bulls days. And there was even a funny tweet. I'll show it if I can find it again. But it was like, this is how Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson are playing tonight. And it was like in their Bulls jersey. And when the game ended, who was the one getting interviewed? Derrick Rose. And I forgot if it was Barkley or Shaq. I think it was Shaq bringing up of like
no, it was Kenny the Jet Smith.
Oh, it was Kenny that was asking about like, oh, what do you tell Randall to keep his head in game? And Rose brought up like, this is Randall's first time in the playoffs, first round period, like, and Rose is the experienced guy in the locker room along with Gibson probably and a couple others, like telling them, okay, this is where you gotta how to stay focused. This is where Trey doesn't really have that, you know what I mean? Like, not a Rose. Like, it helps having
he has got
someone who, but it helps having someone that's reached the peak epicenter of everything and can like tell you, bro, okay, this is when the lights are brightest, how they handled it, and especially if they were able to handle it, because Rose was able to handle it, and like having that type of dude in the locker room, just the reason Miami keeps UD in the room, because while UD wasn't, individually the peak, he's reached the peak of NBA several times. So,
yeah, that does.
That is one big advantage the Knicks have, having those three guys like Thibodeau, Dick Gibson, and Rose. And it helps that they've all played and been together before.
I wouldn't say, okay, yes. Obviously, when it comes to players, yes, that helps out. I know you brought Coach Tibbs up. You can't sleep in the fact that the Hawks have a good coach as well, and Coach Nate McMillan. He has experience when it comes to the NBA. He has been in the playoffs. He's somebody good to have as and a voice in your locker room as well. You can't sleep when it comes to that. Guys, let us know in the comments what you guys think. You think the Hawks, they're going to be able to win the next 2 games going back home?
Am I tripping about the Knicks taking the momentum away from these guys?
Are you tripping?
Am I calling it too early?
Are you calling it?
I know I'm calling it. I said we might look back, but I'm telling you, I'm just putting it out there.
Exactly.
I think it's a pretty solid plausibility.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think. How many games you think this series is going to be? 6, 7, 5?
That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy.
When it comes
that
to
would definitely cement what I said.
Andrade is right 95% of the time. Shit.
Yo, they're gonna
if that happens. But either way, guys, appreciate all the love and the hate. You guys already know. Catch us on Twitter, TikTok, and Spotify, and Apple. This is Ball Talk Deep, where we talk deep about ball. We'll catch you guys soon. For now,
take care.